If you were to ask me about my sister today, I'd say she's the best. Sure, she gets on my nerves at times, but I still love her. If you were to ask me about my sister just a few years ago, I would instantly begin complaining. Not in the normal way that teenagers usually do. I couldn't stand her. And that was for one tiny reason. She had different beliefs than I did. Now, I shouldn't have despised her for that, but I did. And it isn't an issue that is unique to me. Hatred is formed between different beliefs all the time. By putting myself into positions where I can hear others' opinions, and by researching this phenomenon, I've learned to be okay when other people have different beliefs, no matter how much I disagree with them. Hi, my name is Lucas Hogan. I'm a sophomore at Greenville Senior High School. My goal is to open people's eyes to this topic and educate them about the steps that they can take as the average person to help solve this topic as a whole throughout the country. First things first, what is the issue exactly? I'm going to be explaining two topics to you folks within the short time I have today: negative partisanship and partisan antipathy. Now, I'm going to start with partisan antipathy because that's really the cause, and negative partisanship is the effect. Partisan antipathy is the negative view of members of the opposing political party based on their beliefs. It is an increasingly growing phenomenon, and it is present in both major political parties. As of 2022, over 50% of both major political parties said they thought of the other side as closed-minded, unintelligent, immoral, and dishonest. The concerning fact? This is a very recent thing. In 1994, less than 25% of members of both major political parties said they held very unfavorable views of the other. Now, let's stick a pin in that for a second and discuss negative partisanship. Negative partisanship is the tendency to vote for one political party based on disdain for the opposing political party. It's not voting based on policies, ideologies, or how much they like the candidates. No, it's voting based on hatred. Now, the statistics that prove that this phenomenon is increasing are a little bit confusing, but I'm going to do my best to explain it. What I'm going to be using to explain it is a feeling thermometer. A feeling thermometer is a way people can quantify their emotions. A 100 on the feeling thermometer is complete belief in something, no doubt whatsoever. A 50 on the feeling thermometer is a completely neutral standpoint, no positive opinion, no negative opinion. A 0 on the feeling thermometer is complete disbelief in something, no support for the topic whatsoever. So, for example, let's say this is my feeling thermometer on ice cream. If it's at 100, I absolutely love ice cream. I cannot get enough of it. If it's at 50, I don't really care about ice cream. I don't dislike it, but I don't like it. If it's at 0, I absolutely despise ice cream. I cannot stand it one bit. Now, back to politics. What we've been seeing throughout the past 20, 30 years is that people are liking the opposing party less and less. So Democrats are liking Republicans less, and Republicans are liking Democrats less. So their feelings on the feeling thermometer are nearing 0 for the opposing party. But what we're also seeing is that people are liking their own party less and less at a similar rate. So Democrats are liking Democrats less, and Republicans are liking Republicans less. This means that their feelings are going towards 50 on the feeling thermometer for their own party, which means they're nearing a completely neutral standpoint for their own party, which means, I cannot stress this enough, almost completely indifferent about their own party. But like I just said, their feelings towards the opposing party are nearing 0. So what's happening is that votes aren't being placed because of one's beliefs. Votes are being placed because of hatred towards the opposing political party. And that isn't how it should be. Votes should be placed because of one's beliefs. The results of this? Increased dissatisfaction with democracy. Studies have shown that the win-loss satisfaction gap is much higher for negative partisans. So we have increased dissatisfaction with democracy because we have increased negative partisanship. Now, let's go back to partisan antipathy. The effects of this are even greater. A study was conducted that showed that people are 40% more likely to share a story that paints the opposing party in a negative light than they are to share a story that paints their party in a negative light. Another study sought to test avoidance through group selection. Participants were randomly drawn and told that they were going to be completing a series of puzzles. Now, keep in mind, these puzzles had nothing to do with politics. After a bit of added fluff to make it believable, some participants were told that they were chosen by an algorithm as team leaders. This meant that they got to choose 3 out of 4 options to complete the rest of the series of puzzles with them. The researchers designed their options to specifically be 1 independent with some college education, 1 independent with only high school education, 1 Republican with college education, and 1 Democrat with college education. So this is what their choices look like. Roughly 54% of the participants chose the high school educated independent over the college educated member of the opposing political party. And get this, when interviewed afterwards, they didn't even try to hide their prejudice. They openly admitted that they made their groups with avoiding the opposing political party in mind. Other studies shows that it leads to tolerance to suppress protests of opposing political parties. It leads to political corruption, etc. Now, these are all terrible effects, I agree. But let's look at possibly the most important effect. Political violence. When nearly 2,000 participants were interviewed, something shocking was unveiled. In the United States, Democrats who dislike Republicans are 8% more likely to express support for the use of political violence. Republicans who dislike Democrats are 18% more likely to express support for the use of political violence. Then, when analyzing multiple nations, it was shown that countries with high partisan antipathy are 34% more likely to experience frequent political violence. The negative effects of partisan antipathy are extremely clear. So, what can we do to help solve this? I'm going to talk about what the country as a whole can do, and I'm also going to talk about what the everyday person can do. When looking at how to solve issues within our own country, it can be helpful to look at what other countries did when presented with the same problem. Ireland and England use a model called citizen assemblies. Citizens are brought in to discuss challenging social or political issues. It offers them a space to discuss issues in a manner in which they can find common ground. Ireland has done several of these successfully surrounding climate change, and England has done several of these successfully surrounding Brexit. These are so helpful because immersing oneself in an area where beliefs can be peacefully discussed in a productive manner is a way to really increase understanding of another's beliefs. Now, keep in mind, I said an area where beliefs can be discussed in a productive manner. That does not include arguing with people on Twitter. Please do not do that. Now, as for what the individual can do, there are many steps one can take. For one, decrease hate spread through social media. Social media is one of the biggest factors in increasing partisan antipathy, the negative view of members of the opposing political party based on their beliefs. When confronted with hate speech on the internet, a good thing to do is to conduct counter-speech. Some methods of doing so can be through empathizing, affiliation, and warning them of the consequences of hate speech. What you shouldn't do is approach with a hostile tone, fact-check, or harass. Another thing individuals can do to help decrease partisan antipathy is calling out their own party. Researchers from Harvard, NYU, and UCLA have all agreed that the most powerful thing one can do is criticize their own track. It sends a signal to other group members about what is acceptable and what isn't. For example, the Virginia House Republican leader told white supremacist groups to stay away from rallies at the state capitol. This way, he could disassociate the party from those beliefs. Now, obviously, that was on a bit of a larger scale, but anyone can do this. If you see something within your own party that isn't right, call it out. We should also stop making bad jokes. Jokes are one of the biggest factors in increasing partisan antipathy. They have a way of normalizing prejudice. They dehumanize the topic. We should also begin to highlight the media. Us as Americans are a lot more polarized by emotion than we are by policy. Believe it or not, most Americans agree on the broad strokes of contentious topics like abortion, gun control, and immigration. A lot of Americans have misconceptions about what the opposing party actually thinks. If given a chance to provide information that overturns these misconceptions, do so. When you disagree with someone, do not resort to aggression. Hear their side respectfully, then considerately offer your opinion. Try to find common ground. Finally, avoid repeating misinformation. Even when trying to disprove misinformation, repeating it can cause our brains to think that it's true, no matter if it's accurate or not. Dartmouth researchers encourage simply stating the correct version of the information. So instead of saying Obama was not born outside of the United States, simply say Obama was born inside of the United States. Although it's such a small change, it can be the difference between someone believing misinformation and not believing misinformation. If there's one thing that sticks with you when you leave here today, I hope it's respect. Because respect can be the difference. I didn't respect my sister's beliefs, like I mentioned earlier, but now I do. It can be the difference between an argument and a civil discussion, a stranger and a friend, the difference between division and unity. Thank you.